Oh man. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Spin Rack. We are talking about Sandman, one of the biggest comics out of DC Universe. Here, it's coming over to Netflix. We're gonna get our first look. Cal and Petey, of course, once again, the team is on. So say what's up, Cal. Say what's up, Petey.
Yo,
Hey, what's up, everybody? I do have to admit, you are really getting good with that. Getting really good with those transitions.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Please focus. Selector.
one, two.
Buckle my.
Pause.
Tonight we will achieve what no one has even attempted. We will summon and imprison death. I give you a coin made from a stone. And I give you a feather pulled from an angel's wing. And I give you the blood from my vein. We summon you together!
Wait, look.
Death has family, desire, destiny, despair.
Which one have I got?
Dream. You're gonna need all the help you can get.
Wow. Oh wow. It's definitely a tease, man. All right, that was good. That was it's whetting my appetite to see more. If they can, first of all, they got Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones. That alone tells you, hey, we gotta watch this, right?
Or at least they've got some money.
Oh, they
Which
definitely,
guy? Not this. Is this who you're talking about?
yeah, he's looking like the Sandman.
Yeah, he does look like him. Sandman is like a more handsomer Neil Gaiman, right? That's so it's kind of here we go.
Oh,
I wouldn't necessarily say that.
We can't say that.
We can't. Why are we dissing the author of a?
He's a. It's a sin. It starts. You read the early ones, right? It's sort of like him, kind of mowing through, being cynical about the DC universe. So it kind of really feels like it's his.
kinda.
So it kind of
No.
feels like it's him.
I didn't get that in the initial comics. I gotta look back at those.
When he
Neil
wasn't.
Gaiman spent a good amount of time on the Sandman bemoaning the fact that he didn't really want to write comic books. Okay, the limitations of comic books, the superhero comic books, and I mean, you can
He
just
took the
see
money.
you can just see what the characters that he used at the end of the day. But I mean, it was kind of like unnecessary because you're writing a Vertigo comic anyway.
Right.
So it's not really a superhero comic. And if you were dumb enough to pick up the Sandman and was like, hey, this doesn't look like the Jack Kirby version that I was reading, but like, yeah, you really didn't know what the heck was going on. But that exists. It's just funny. I'll get into debates with guys over the thing, and I tell them that story existed on its own in the Vertigo universe. It's everything that you see there. That was like big fish, small pond. Once they get part in the DC universe, it's a totally different thing at the end of the day. But kind of, no, he made a lot of commentary through those stories about his feelings on the genre that he was writing or the genre that he didn't necessarily care to write.
Which was a huge hit for him.
Well,
come back to that well again and again, right?
Since Cal was responding to what I didn't want to misinterpret because I haven't read that much of just my initial reaction. It could have been anyone could have said something different. I wasn't expecting that. But ultimately it does feel like they're getting into a lot of the mythology, and I know that some of his other properties that he's done, they've gotten heavily into that and not into what was going to be our hook into the story. So I think that's the only thing. Besides the look of what this is, it looks interesting, but they haven't give us a hook outside of people liking Neil Gaiman's Sandman and just want to see if they pull it off, which could be enough pull for the fans, Oh, that's the other thing that DC didn't do. I just want to point out, which I know Cal already knows, but it's like DC didn't actually have Vertigo, but they had their suggested for mature readers, like stuff like Green Arrow and a couple other books. That just sort of laid around and was next to the DC universe, but wasn't really. And then they sort of like, we're kind of taking it out unless we have these especially nice things that we want to pull back in, because I think some of the Vertigo stuff kind of slipped in, but it was kind of tough to try to drag them in there. But it was interesting to see early on because it didn't really fit the DC
No,
universe early on at all.
a lot of it still doesn't, because the stuff that he did in some of the stuff he did in Sandman, this has to be its own universe at the end of the day, because he's making commentary that once you put it into the DC universe, it just doesn't bear out when you have those other characters there. And he wasn't really concerned. He wasn't really concerned about that anyway. Like, he'd have a character like Lucifer Morningstar, and according to his stuff, Lucifer Morningstar created the whole universe in the Sandman stories. Now, you get to the DC universe proper, then people ask, well, what about the blue hand and the energy coming out the blue hand? What about that? But what about Superman? What about what about the gods that are dealing with over here? So, it was really on his own, and he had carte blanche to pretty much do what he wanted to in that particular series. But then you try to marry it to DC. I mean, with the exception of maybe characters like Swamp Thing, a lot of, who could go back and forth, a lot of the stuff really doesn't mesh because you're doing your own thing. You're not, there's no editor telling you, wait a minute, how does this tie in with everything else at the end of the day? And then when they tried to bring those characters in, the only way they could fit is that, I mean, really, it's the big fish in the small pond thing. Once you bring them over to the big pond, they get really, really, really small in comparison to the other characters there. But it was a series that really I mean, what? Vertigo was like an extension of all those the British writers, and like the British invasion in comics as well. And a lot of guys were looking for that. They were older. They had read through all the Superman stuff. They got older. They read through all the Spider-Man stuff. They didn't want necessarily the same formulaic type of stories, and it wasn't. It definitely wasn't. It gave them a whole bunch of other stuff to read, so it was very, very popular. It was very, very popular with them, and as stories, it holds up with one caveat. Neil Gaiman loves myth. Neil Gaiman loves writing myth. Neil Gaiman doesn't really do a good job of writing his own myths. They have to be based on something else. So you read Norse mythology, excellent. You go to Sandman, as long as he has some foundation, he's great. But then he'll go write something like Beowulf, and you wonder what the hell happened. Or you go get to American Gods, and this is like, okay, this is like Neil Gaiman took a drug called Grant Morrison and just decided to write this series. That's wild at the end of the day. But I don't know. I mean, I'm taking all this stuff with like a caveat right now, because after what was that again? That series, what was the name of the Miller series again? Jupiter's Legacy. Jupiter's Legacy came out, had all of that production. They put all that money into the series, and it didn't, it went a season. Even though I thought they made some really big missteps with it. But this shouldn't be too hard to to get across board. It should easily be a 3-4 season show. Especially since you had Lucifer, and Lucifer's tied into all this stuff. So you would think, okay, fine, we can really get some mileage out of it. But I'm going to actually wait and see what the reaction is from people, because you got Brian K. Vaughan's Why the Last Man Out. I haven't really heard any buzz regarding it, and I didn't really care for the series myself. So I want to see where the audience appetite is for this type of stuff, comic book based stuff.
I mean, I think you're right. There could be an issue. I mean, he has a rabid fan base for the Sandman series stories, clearly. But will it go to the Main Street audience? And I think you have, with this particular story, it can be really, really trippy. Could be really out there for some people, and I think it's going to have to be careful how they handle it. And right now, it has to be a clear-cut story. I don't think it has to be a lot of nuance. Just tell them basically what's going on and follow straight through. It'll be great if they bring Lucifer Morningstar in, because they're getting ready to end that series, right?
They're gonna do not the one. They're gonna do a whole different thing. I think the idea of someone actually banking this came from the TV series, but that was kind of what TV was doing recently. They were doing a lot of the cop show wasn't working outside of whatever was left from Law and Order, but there was all these supernatural cop shows, so they kind of did that with Lucifer, and that's what I think. Whereas Netflix took on, I think it was either canceled in season 3 or season 4, and Netflix picked it up, and then they did two or three more seasons of it to success. Where you had other stuff like Good Omen. I'm looking up this right now. Good Omen. You had American Gods. That I guess it's still going, but it's not a big buzz. Neverwhere. I guess it was at a movie. and then you had something Neil Gaiman's Likely Story. So it's been like the Sandman was like the prize thing to do, and then but no one was touching it because they didn't have anything that was like. It felt to me, this is my opinion, they didn't have anything that was a big, huge success. And outside they say, hey, this Lucifer thing is making us money. Let's put it in and let's do this. Let's see if we can do it. So, and I think from the mistakes that were made with Jupiter's Legacy, understanding where to put your money and how to play it rather than go totally supernatural as much as you can and waste all your money because you got to get through the year. You got to get through a season where it works and not kill yourself trying to do like cool effects. So get what you can in early on and then find a way to keep it, basic drama after that because, you already had Jupiter's Legacy that's kind of saying that. And it's not a trial because they had stuff that has, I guess, it seems like the American God's still going. So you had something that's, an okay success, or is doing well or doing okay, that sort of thing. So yeah, it seemed like that's what but they made the step forward. Netflix made the step forward post finishing up Lucifer. So I think they have a new cast. They cast the new Lucifer Morningstar also. I think it might be a woman. I'm not sure.
Oh, then they're screwing up. Then they already made the one mistake casting they cast this black actress for Death the Endless, which I don't have an issue with the race of the character because if you look at the character in the comics, Death is just chalk white with black hair, female. That's pretty much all you need. But they're already saying, "Oh no, we're not going to put any makeup on her." I'm like, okay, I've seen this too many times. I've seen this with Starfire, other characters. It's like when you're black, you don't need any makeup or anything of that nature to approximate the character from the comics. You're already black, So that's pretty much it. You're already an alien. You're already this otherworldly thing at the end of the day. We have no idea about you. We just go with it. So when I heard that they weren't going to do any of the treatment to try to make her actually look like a comic character, I said, that's a mistake. That is a mistake at the end of the day. For me, it's a glaring omission because you really want people drawn into that. And I don't know. It's for me, I just find it tacky at the end of the day. Not so much racist, but really, really tacky. If they decide to change Lucifer Morningstar, make Lucifer Morningstar female, again, these are needless changes. Needless changes. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that. So as long as they do a good job, that's the key thing. And remember, most of the audience hasn't read the story, so for them, this will be new.
They will.
And the question is how that interacts. I think, though, I mean, from what I understand, and I have no firm numbers, but on Audible, the Sandman story has done well. Having celebrity voices on that. Neil Gaiman has a hit and miss with some of these series. You've had a series with he recently had a series with Prime Video, which is Amazon, and he just had the thing with American Gods that he has with Stars, and now he has this with Netflix. So I mean, there's clearly an audience for his particular type of work and his particular type of humor and stories. I think this, like I said, this could be, as long as he plays it straight, not too trippy. I think it could do well, and as long as the budget isn't as big as something like Jupiter's Legacy, it should do fine. But it would be a misstep, like you said before, not to have Lucifer Morningstar, the one they currently have, that people are familiar with, and bringing that audience over. At least some of them. It's not going to be the same thing, but a cameo at least.
It's not the same thing. They already got was it Gwendolyn Christie?
Gwendolyn Christie. That's from Game of Thrones.
Yep.
So she's playing Lucifer.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a done deal. It's not supposed to be the same thing.
All right. So I mean, it's another DC universe, right? Part of the multiverse.
It's just a different. I mean, because Lucifer was sort of an offshoot, even though they had Neil Gaiman sort of voice God in I think the end of season 3 or 4, but they established a different sort of God like when he actually appears. So it's not something set in stone. So they obviously didn't want to be stuck having to follow any of the characters that were in the TV show, because I think the TV show also went their own way with different things. And obviously, like I guess I'm looking at it, they have like Abel and I don't see they have Cain. They have Abel instead of Cain so far. So so this guy. Well, I seen he was in this. I guess he's in this play with Jake Gyllenhaal. It's a kind of tough drama thing. But okay. That's a. I guess they had to rough him up, have him get a couple bad nights sleep to get Tom Sturridge to look a little rough around the edges. This is like I was like, that dude is the same dude.
Same dude.
Wow. So here's some coffee. Stay up, night after night. All right, you look perfect, perfect.
Why don't they just act like they haven't gotten any sleep? Just act. It's like you heard that story about Laurence Olivier and Dustin Hoffman for the Marathon Man?
No, what story?
Oh yeah, I think so. But yeah, go to it.
Yeah, no, I believe it's it's the Marathon Man, if I'm correct. So Laurence Olivier, Dustin Hoffman is doing the what I forget the name of the method, but same thing that
Method acting?
Huh?
Method acting?
Yeah, method acting. He's doing method acting. Same thing the other actors were doing at around the time. Pacino, Brando, that type of stuff. So he comes in, he looks like hell. And so Laurence Olivier goes over to him. He's like, "Whatever, man. What has happened to you? You look like trash." And he's like, "Oh no, I'm doing this method acting, so I'm trying to get into the character. So I haven't slept, I haven't bathed, I haven't done that." He's like, "Yeah, what do you think about it?" He's like, I have a different approach to acting." He's like, "Oh, what's the approach?" "I call it acting." He's like, "Why are you doing all this stuff to yourself? Just act like you haven't had any sleep. This isn't real." He was like, he was in the movie, I think he was Laurence Olivier was playing a like a Nazi war criminal who the guy discovered. So I think at one point Dustin Hoffman has him under gunpoint and he's telling him to eat these diamonds. So he takes one, puts it to his mouth, swallows it. I'm pretty certain he's like, "Hey, I don't think he really swallowed it." He just acted like they actually did it. So that type of stuff, when you look at it, anytime these guys are really beating themselves up, I'm like, hey, even now, when you look at somebody and they're like, "Oh, you lost all that weight for the machinist," it's like, hey, you can do all that with trick technology now, right? You just put in some computers. You don't got to do all this stuff to your body. Shut down your kidneys.
Yeah, no, it's a thing. I've totally forgot that dude Tom Sturridge is the guy, but and I definitely didn't remember when I saw it in that teaser. So I mean, I think the people are probably gonna get what they at. It's not at a million yet, so who knows? But that just came out, so maybe it'll be there soon. All right, so Mars, anything else on this?
And the only thing with this is that it also, these stories are where you have different aspects of I wouldn't say aspects of what deities, is that what we would call them, or gods? I don't know how. I don't remember how they were categorized. Did I remember seeing a writer? I think it was Paul Anderson years ago, where he wrote about whole stuff about different aspects. Where you have one guy who handles death, another person who handles dreaming.
Oh, you mean
this story?
Yeah, but those are he's doing he's doing it like myth, okay? Because he's using you've got without a doubt you have Christian figures there would be from Christian religion, but then he has a god of death, and that's right out of Greek mythology.
Right.
Okay, right out of Greek mythology. Then you have the god of the dreams and so on and so forth, and endless and such. But you throw Lucifer in there, that's a totally different thing. So he's looking at something that's both monotheistic and polytheistic at the same time. But he likes myth.
Okay, cool. So hey, I hope it goes off, and it's always great to have it. The one thing Netflix is very good relative to the other streaming services, that they give you all kinds of stuff. There isn't they're trying to hit every single audience possible. Not necessarily with the best quality, but at least all kinds of audiences getting a shot at some of the shows that they like. Okay, so hey, spin a rack
Out.
Booyaka.